She was abandoned by her children, left to struggle in poverty, and dismissed as a burden. But what her family didn't know was that Dorothy held the key to a $60 million inheritance. What she did with it shocked her children, her community, and the world. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to Blackish Focus. Here we share powerful, emotional, and motivational true stories that touch the heart and inspire change. Dorothy Dion was born in 1952 in Birmingham, Alabama, during a time when being poor and black meant the odds were stacked against you from birth. Her father worked himself sick in the steel mills, while her mother scrubbed houses until her knees gave out. Dorothy learned early that survival required sacrifice, and sacrifice was the language of love. By 17, she was a single mother. Jamar came first, followed 2 years later by Dorothy. Their father vanished, leaving Dorothy with 2 babies and no support. She cleaned offices at night and babysat other people's children during the day, her own children learning too soon what struggle meant. Despite hardship, Dorothy was resourceful. When her daughter wore duct-tape sneakers, she drew flowers on them with a marker and said, "Now you've got the prettiest shoes in the whole school." She taught her son that wealth wasn't in money, but in the family who loved you. Dorothy worked 18-hour days, juggling multiple jobs. Every crumpled dollar she saved went into a coffee can hidden in her kitchen, her education fund for the kids. She skipped meals, slept on the couch with only her coat for warmth, and turned her hunger into songs so her children wouldn't worry. Her sacrifices paid off. Jamar earned a basketball scholarship. Dorothy shined in academics. Dorothy cheered at their graduations in the same faded church dress she'd worn for years, her pride outweighing her exhaustion. But as her children entered adulthood, something shifted. The calls came less often. Letters turned into short texts. Visits stopped altogether. Dorothy, who had given everything, was slowly forgotten. At Jamar's wedding, Dorothy sat alone in the back. When she tried to hug her son, his new mother-in-law asked coldly, "Who is this woman?" Dorothy's heart cracked when Jamar answered, "This is Dorothy, my mother." No warmth. No pride, just embarrassment. Dorothy, once the sensitive child, began to see Dorothy as a burden too. When Dorothy cooked her famous cornbread and greens during a visit, Dorothy's husband criticized the food as too heavy. Dorothy quietly cleaned the dishes while her daughter said nothing. The children Dorothy raised with love had grown ashamed of her. To them, she was no longer the strong mother who had built their future, just a poor old woman who didn't fit in with their new lives. Years of labor caught up with Dorothy. She collapsed at work, suffering a heart attack. The hospital called her children. Jamar sent flowers through his assistant. Dorothy promised to call later. Neither showed up. Her health declined, bills piled up, and eviction notices followed. In desperation, Dorothy called Jamar, asking for $800 to cover rent. He sighed and sent only $300, suggesting she look into senior housing. Dorothy told her to downsize expectations. Dorothy's pride and heart broke together. She stopped asking for help, surviving on 1 meal a day, borrowing from her elderly neighbor Mrs. Malavy, who became her only true family. Then came a knock on her door. A lawyer revealed her estranged brother Jerome had passed away, leaving her his entire estate, businesses, investments, and wealth worth $60 million. In his letter, Jerome reminded her of her worth, writing, "You spent your life caring for others. Now it's time for someone to care for you." But Jerome also left a clause. Her children would inherit nothing if they had abandoned her. Dorothy wept, not for the money, but for the reminder that someone had remembered her when her own children had not. Dorothy could have bought mansions or traveled the world. Instead, she purchased a rundown group home and transformed it into a children's home for the homeless and forgotten. She filled it with laughter, meals, and love. Teenagers who had been discarded by society found hope under her care. They called her Mama Dorothy. When asked why she was so kind, she answered simply, "Family isn't just blood. It's who shows up for you." The children's home thrived. Some went to college, others started careers, but all carried Mama Dorothy's lessons of love and resilience. Still, Dorothy wanted her children to learn the consequences of their choices. She staged her own death. At her funeral, the will was read. Jamar and Darija received nothing but forgiveness, while the $60 million estate went to the children's home. Her children were stunned. Stripped of inheritance, they realized too late that they had lost something far greater: their mother's presence, love, and legacy. When Dorothy finally revealed she was alive, she offered reconciliation, not through money, but through the chance to be part of her new family. Some children resisted at first, protective of Mama Dorothy. But eventually, Jamar and Darija saw what their mother had built and began the slow work of making amends. By her 70s, Dorothy had become a community hero. Her children's home expanded into a model of education, therapy, and family restoration. Children she raised went on to college, returning to mentor the next generation. Jamar and Darija finally understood wealth without love is poverty. They worked alongside their mother, teaching, fundraising, and building programs that reflected her sacrifices. Dorothy proved that the greatest inheritance isn't money, it's love, dignity, and second chances. She had turned abandonment into abundance, loneliness into legacy, and pain into purpose. What would you have done if you were in Dorothy's place? Would you forgive your children or cut them off forever? Share your thoughts in the comments. If Dorothy's story touched your heart, please like this video, share it with someone who needs this message, and don't forget to subscribe to Blackish Focus for more true, emotional, and motivational stories every day.